So this tutorial is going to provide us with a quick overview of Max MSP. I'm running this on a Macintosh computer. It looks very much the same on a Windows computer. Hopefully everyone's managed to get Max set up and running on your computer. So I'm just going to go through, create a blank patch by selecting under the File menu, New Patcher. And that creates an empty patcher. And a patcher is basically where code is stored in Max MSP. And I just want to spend a little bit of time navigating around this application. Okay, so this is a blank patcher, and you can look through the menu items. Most of these are self-explanatory. You look in the help file. A couple of things you might want to do. I always turn on segmented patch cords. I always have my Max in overdrive. We don't need to deal with audio status at the moment, but eventually you'll want to set that up so that it properly interfaces with your sound card. So actually the first thing I do when I create a Max patch is I load in a format for all of my objects. Basically this is the color, size, and appearance of all of my interface objects, because I find that Max's default values don't work very well, especially in video. They look too much alike. So I load in something called, from a library I have of my own, and basically I'm using lots of colors in here. So you can create your own format if you'd like to, or you can try to use one of mine. But you can see that when I create objects in Max MSP, when I create them, that they have all kinds of nice colors, so they're easy to see and they're differentiated from one another, rather than everything looking an altered version of gray. The most important thing in Max MSP is down in the bottom left corner, this lock switch. Max has 3 modes that it operates in. The first 2 of those modes are what I call the edit mode, where the file is unlocked and you can add things to it, and the performance mode, where this is locked and you actually perform the patch, or you interact with the patch as a fixed program. So when we are adding things to the patch, we're unlocked, and when we are working the patch, we are locked. So that can be switched on and off with Control or Command E. I'm using a Macintosh, so every time I say Command E, if you're on Windows, just hear that as Control E. So back and forth I can unlock and lock this patch. Some of these objects, most of these objects along the left side, you don't really need to deal with at this point in time. This is where things like movies, images, snippets, which are fragments of code, plugins, Visi are movie modules or video manipulation modules, Beep are audio effects, and so on. So they're all stored along there. We don't really need to deal with them. This objects is like a database of all the possible objects that are available, and you can see there are many objects. So we're not going to learn them all, but you will get to know a lot of the objects over the course of the semester. You can create objects from that panel, but it's much easier just to type the object name than to hunt for it in there. Along the right side, these pull out a panel which allows you to search for things, to view characteristics and properties of objects or components of Max, to have reference to objects, to have a console where you can print out information and also get error messages from Max. And those are all along the right side. The snapshots we don't really need to worry about. And down here in the bottom right corner, this turns on the audio system, turns it on and off. But we're not going to be dealing with this at this point in time. Okay, so Now the top is the most important area of Max MSP, and this is where the basically you can drag down all the elements you need to create a Max patch. So first of all, we go into edit mode. Now I've created a format so that my colors are different when I'm in performance mode, yellow, and in edit mode, a kind of brown. So if I want to create an object in Max, there are several ways to do this. One is to go up here and just drag an object down and let go. And then once it's there, I can type the object name that I want. So I'm going to type the object name make. Notice how it supplies me with the name. And once I've finished typing the name, it actually tells me information like that this has velocity, 3 arguments, which are velocity, duration, and channel. So I'm going to type a default velocity, a type default duration, and a default channel. Also notice that when I hover over the outlets and the inlets on all these objects, it actually tells me what kind of information is supposed to be coming in that inlet, and that's also extremely useful. If I select an object, I can go to the inspector and I can change all the characteristics of this object, including its placement, its color, its text color. Depending on the object, this list will be longer or shorter. But this is basically the appearance, size, font, and all the attributes of an object. There are times when this is very useful. For example, if I bring in a number box from here, just a regular integer number box, and I select it and I go to my inspector, I could set, for example, that the minimum value of this number box is 10 and the maximum value is 100. So when I operate this number box, it's never going to go below 10 and it's never going to go above 100. So the inspector is a very, very valuable, very important part of creating a completed patch. The Max console we've already talked about. The reference, if I select this and I go reference, I can find out information about the particular object, what arguments it takes and what those arguments do, and get reference to other objects that are similar to this one. And more importantly, while this object is selected, I can go to the help and I can open a help file which opens up and which is a functioning Max patch in which I can look at the patch and understand better how it works. And this one, usually the help files have tabs, so I can look in lots of details if I need to. One of the wonderful things about Max is the help is right there, and you can even copy right out of the help and paste it into your patch. Okay, so I'm in edit mode here. I got as far as having an object. The next is message. By the way, a shortcut for typing adding an object is just to type the letter N, not Command N or Control N, just N. So I click on my patch, I type N, and the object appears. And I'm going to type a note out one message. And I'm going to connect that. I'm going to connect these all up and join them so they're nice and aligned. And again, I happen to know that this is the right way to connect these. If I didn't know, I could hover and say, oh, the pitch comes out. Out of here comes a pitch, and into here goes a pitch, and out of here comes a velocity, and into here goes a velocity, out of here comes a MIDI channel, and into there goes a MIDI channel. So the program is really helping me out here. All right, so M is for message. So those are objects. I threw a number box in there already, but M is for message. I can either drag this down, or I can just type the letter M, and I can type values into message boxes. And as I mentioned before in one of the other videos, message boxes are kind of fixed values. So when you're operating the program, you can click on them, but you can't alter them. They're not editable during operation of the program. I'm just going to join this up. By the way, Command Y will turn that into a segmented patch cord. So I'm going to do that and join those up. Okay, next I'm going to look at the comments. Comments are very useful in Max MSP. The shortcut is C, so I can either drag this down and type a comment. Obviously your comments are not going to just say comment. I'm going to be saying something more useful. I'm going to write create, note on, and note off, which is what make note does, in fact. And next is a toggle box. Toggles are objects, shortcut T, which generate values. I, for a number box, generate values of 1 and 0. 1 is understood as turning something on, 0 is turning something off. So if we have an object that understands a toggle, we can control that object using a toggle box. And then we have numbers, and when we click on this we find there's a bunch of numbers, and we've got the integer number box, the flow num number box, and we've also got one that deals with signals, which we don't have to worry about. So shortcut is I, shortcut is F, but if we want to, we can drag these number boxes out. Right. And there we have them. Okay. And then we have another category of sliders and dials, and you can, I would say pull each of these out one at a time and get to know them. This is the slider, this is a dial, this is a gain control for audio, there's a K slider, which is a keyboard slider. So there's all kinds of different user interface objects that you can pull out of there. You can also create those objects by simply knowing what they are. So for example, if I type N for a new object and I type the word slider, it will create a slider. If I type N and I say picked slider, I happen to know that that is a two-dimensional slider, and it will create one for me. So sometimes as you get to know Max, it's just faster to create an object and type it in rather than hunting through here. Let's see, Max for live objects we're going to deal with right now, and then this plus, which is just all of the other objects in different categories that we could find in Max MSP. And this doesn't include all of them, those are mostly just interface objects. The formatting I've already mentioned. So this is we've actually put together a little bit of a Max patch. If we want to perform the patch, I'm going to join this up to that. Gonna save it. Please save often. Go Command E, and then I'm going to see what happens if I click on this, or if I click on this, or if I do this. Okay, so I've just created a little program where I can basically create MIDI notes, and you could hear the piano kind of playing, the MIDI piano, the built-in MIDI piano playing when I did that. Let's do one more thing. Command E to be in edit mode. Let's put an N to create a new object, and let's type metro, which is a metronome, put 1,000 in, and that means 1,000 milliseconds. I'm going to attach this toggle, which is on and off, and I'm going to take this over to here. I've got segmented patch chords going on, so you can see I go click, 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 and I'm going to turn this on. Not a particularly useful or imaginative patch, but what's basically happening is this particular object, metro, let's see what Metro does. Let's select it, and we'll go to the help file, open Metro help. There it is, and it tells us it outputs a bang message at regular intervals, and that the argument that it takes is the number of milliseconds in duration between those outputs. Right? So there's all kinds of other information that can be added to it, but that's the basic structure. And this is sending out a bang, and the bang goes into the number box, and the number box passes that, the bang causes the number to be passed into the make note object, which makes a note. Okay, so there's a very simple patch. And I don't know that there's much else that needs to be covered in as you initially get your work your way around Max MSP. I didn't talk about presentation mode down here because we're not using presentation mode right now, but presentation mode will be used later in the course. Presentation mode allows you to hide objects, or actually what it does is it allows you to specify which objects you want to be visible when the patch is in presentation mode. So if I just show you how that works, if I select this object and I say edit object, add to presentation, that object will be in presentation mode. So when I go into presentation mode, that's the only object that's visible. So presentation mode is something we're going to deal with later. For the first project, you won't be using presentation mode. So I hope that helps you navigate your way around Max MSP. All of the main components are up here. The help and information that you might want to reference is along the side. Controlling the mode is down at the bottom, and then access to data files is along the left side.